Welcome to the Godfathers of Podcasting, broadcasting live on the Shuli Network every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Archives of this show are available on every major podcast provider, including Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio, SundayNightsMainEvent.com, and so many more. You can also find archives, merch, and more on their official website, godfathersofpodcasting.com. The Godfathers are always talking about music, TV shows, movies, comedy, sports, current events, and whatever else is on their minds. But why are they called the Godfathers of Podcasting? Because they've been podcasting before podcasting was even called podcasting. Now, here are your hosts, the two guys who have made online broadcasting their home since 1996, the Godfathers of Podcasting themselves, Donnie De Silva and Chris Tidwell.
Hello, everyone. My name is Donnie De Silva, and that is Chris Tidwell, as you heard from our friend Gina in the open. I am the guy who's just going to try to guide this show for the next hour or so. The man on the other side of the screen, he's the talent here. He is the chocolate in my peanut butter. He is Notorious T.I.D. How you doing, bro?
Nope. You're going to have to redo that. You do not get the peanut butter roll.
You know what? You're right.
How long have we known each other?
You're right. You are the biggest peanut butter hoe I have ever known.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I
between you and Ali from AEW, you are the two biggest peanut butter hoes I know.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
100%.
So
we've actually her and I have had that conversation in a car ride one time too. It was pretty funny.
All right, let me try that again. Take two. Ready?
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is the peanut butter in my chocolate. That is Notorious T.I.D. Chris Tidwell.
Yeah, it still didn't work as well, but we'll go along with it anyways. Donnie, I see you've busted out the massive backdrop and set and lighting rigs and sound gear and everything going on this time around.
Let me tell you something, bro. This week's show, is the show that almost didn't want to happen. Okay. My entire neighborhood has been without Wi-Fi since yesterday afternoon, still is currently. Had to figure out how I was going to do tonight's show because Wi-Fi is needed to do an online show. Found a place to do the show. I get there, no electricity.
Fair.
Finally, after an hour,
pay your bill.
Got power. Get power. My audio's not working. We need audio to do this show. This show did not want to happen, but it's happening. It is here. We are live. It is 8:04 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we are thrilled to be hanging out with you right now. Tid, is there anyone hanging out in the chat with us?
It's all kinds of people. Jack the Tripper's in there. He says Donnie is on government Wi-Fi. That's pretty true. Stacey Allen, obviously, fucking Canada. Yep, blame Canada. I feel that that's a fair assessment right there. But I do believe that Tiff has started off the show right out the drop. $10. Love you, fellas. Can we start the show off with a DeVito drop? Just for you, Tiff. Thank you so much for the $10. Appreciate you. And we appreciate everybody else that is hanging out with us tonight. IHR, always in there, probably going to get ready to try to bust some balls at some point tonight. Bring it, tough guy. It's cool. Roy joining us as well.
We got trolls already.
Oh yeah, already. Whatever. Who cares? Topo GGO in there. Thanks again for always supporting, guys. It isn't nearly as much fun without you guys. There's no doubt about that. So please feel free. You're going to have lots of questions for who we have tonight. Probably most importantly, is his gear working? Because that was
his equipment.
Yeah, his equipment.
Again, the show that didn't want to happen because we spent the last 20 minutes backstage trying to make our guests' audio work.
I was ready to go. I was good. Let it be known. Let it be known. Tid, don't jinx it. Yeah, okay, right. I was always ready to go. Tip, close. I mean, you can tip. I mean, I tip right before you get the rest of it.
Just the tip.
What? No. It's what I start with. Anyways,
that's all you got.
It's just a really long tip.
It's a big tip. Goes from tip to nuts.
That's pretty much it. Tremendous. How have you been other than that, though? Has it been a good week for you?
It's been an interesting week. I've been on vacation this week, so that's been nice. What is that?
I got stung by a fucking hornet.
What did Daryl do that for?
Yeah, I don't know. He's mad. But like on Monday, I was out doing the grass, cutting the grass. Seen the size of the yard that I have, and all of a sudden, right in the thumb, and it wasn't a bee because there was nothing left in it, and I was actually boxing with 3 of them out the gate because it got me in the thumb. It's fine to me. I got my earbuds in. I'm in my own backyard, but I'm sure the people in the next yard that if they were out there, they heard me acting like a goddamn fool trying to fight nature. Didn't work out so well because I still got bit in the thumb. And this is like, 4 days later? And this thing is still all swole up, itchy as hell. Like, oh yeah, it's great. So I just got a little thumb thing going on.
I just want to say, if I had gotten stung by a hornet, and I was complaining about it 4 days later, you would be, oh, you little princess. Oh,
I wasn't complaining about it at all. I was just saying that this is what fucking happened. and for the people that were in my backyard, it's probably weirder for them because here's, 6'4", 285-pound fucking weirdo without a fucking shirt on in his backyard, boxing bees in his fucking backyard. So, right.
Ted versus Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell. Not those bees.
I would humble both of them. Just for the chic. Just for cheeky, I would humble both of them.
I think Jim Brunzell just recently put out a book. I should reach out to him and get him on the show.
Why?
Do you want to talk to Jim Brunzell?
Sure. I'll talk to anybody. You know that. I talk
to anybody. As evidenced by tonight's guest. We'll get to him in just 1 second. Before we do, though, I want to throw this out at you. Right. We got all kinds of news stories I want to talk about later in the show.
Sure.
But before we do, I want to get your immediate reaction to the really sad news in my mind on the passing of Sinead O'Connor.
Oh, that is not the face that I was ready to throw out there. I thought it was going to be more of a, but no, definitely. Listen, if you did not appreciate Sinead O'Connor, if you did not appreciate her music, if you did not appreciate her talents, then you should have been able to appreciate the voice that she was trying to express for a lot of voiceless. There is no doubt about it. Sinead O'Connor went through a world of shit that she didn't need to go through. I mean, the worst, of course, being Irish.
You're such a dick.
But 56 years old is way too young to have gone through what she's gone through, lived the life that she did. Yeah, she'll be missed, man. But you know what the nice thing is that her talents have left behind a legacy of songs and music that we'll have forever.
COD has still not been announced. We're not going to play the speculation game out here. But I will say she was seriously punk rock, man. Even though her music wasn't, her mind was punk rock. She was fuck the establishment in every way possible. And she got canceled, had her career completely canceled for a stunt where she went on TV live, ripped up a picture of the Pope, said she was confident that we would be able to stop evil. She wasn't, there's the photo. She wasn't referring to the Pope himself. She was talking about the entire institution. She herself, a victim of abuse from members of the clergy. And there were the stories that were rampant at that time about members of the clergy and pedophilia and everything else. And then, of course, 8 years later, Pope John Paul came forward and issued an apology for all of that activity that had been going on. No one gave an apology to Sinead, though.
No. Well, I mean, think about it symbolistically, if that's even a fucking word. If you're going to go and make a protest about the church and you only have a small item to take with you, what are going to be the two biggest items? The two best choices? Either a picture of the Pope, because you know exactly who that is, or a cross, right? Well, you can't rip up a cross.
Oh, it's hard.
So what are you going to have to do? Burn it? You know what kind of trouble she's going to get if she goes on TV and burns the cross with the skinhead and all? That's going to send the wrong message for sure. So
imagine if Sinead had been 25 years old today and done that exact same thing on TV. It would have been forgotten about in a week.
Well, it'd be a TikTok trend.
It would have been forgotten about in a week. And the way that the world was in 1990 is that was the biggest story on earth. You know, the very next week, she's getting mocked, saying, how she should have been slapped and this and that.
Yeah.
The world is a different place, man.
Stacey Allen says it best right there. The Pope is evil. There's no doubt about it. And that Pope in the picture, I'm pretty sure that Sinead outlived him. So,
Oh, yeah, he's not around.
Right.
Rest in power, Sinead O'Connor. One of the most important voices of my generation, not just lyrically and in terms of her vocal talent, but also her voice as a change agent. And I was always a fan of her music.
A change agent?
You got me.
Is that a thing?
Don't question my shit, mother.
Change agent.
Yeah.
Is what you get at the casino, isn't it?
No, I don't go. You're the guy from Vegas.
Yeah, that's true.
You know all about it.
That's why I'm saying you're using wrong words. You go up to the girl, a little change agent, and you're like, yo, can I get some change? She's like,
all right, ladies and gentlemen.
He's here?
It is time right now for the big hello. And this week's guest was born in Amherst, Nova Scotia. He had 4 siblings, and one of them was WWE Hall of Famer, the late Rocky Johnson. Like his older brother, this man decided to become a professional wrestler, had his first match on March 17th, 1978 against Chris Tolos, the Golden Greek. It was a 15-minute draw because even back then in his first match, he's like, fuck it, I ain't putting anybody over. In the mid-'80s, he had a successful run in Hawaii as a member of the Soul Patrol with his aforementioned brother, the Soul Man. He became a huge fan favorite and had matches against men like the Original Sheik and Nature Boy Ric Flair. He took his talents around the world to places like Germany, Spain, Korea, Fiji, Tonga, Samoa, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Puerto Rico. I think he even wrestled once in Hamilton. Tid and I just got to know this man a little bit in the late 90s. He was a part-time wrestler, full-time promoter, putting on really killer indie shows. He's even done some acting work. I'll leave it there. And just last week, he was featured on Vice's Dark Side of the Ring, talking about the tragic events surrounding the death of his friend, pro wrestling great Adrian Adonis. Aside from all that, this man is also a humanitarian. He's one of the most empathetic people I've ever met in this business, as told to me by my 11-year-old, who is a huge, huge fan of this guy right here. Ladies and gentlemen, he's a big old man from here to Wisconsin, kind eyes, tough jaw, like Big Charles Bronson. We love when he chills because it's always so fun. Smell what his nephew's cooking right now, son. Give it up for our guy, the Soul Man, Ricky Johnson.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you guys so much. Oh,
hey, Ricky,
the bell.
Turn on a fucking light, would you?
Okay, I can do that. Give me a minute. Is that better?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. It is better.
I can't really see myself, so
I just didn't want it to come across weird if I just saw teeth in the background.
Yeah. Well, that's all I have is teeth. Sabu kicked the other ones out. So.
I was going to say, are those yours, or do they pop out at night? Yeah, they pop out at night.
Sabu kicked the other ones out. So, but anyway, Donnie, thank you so much for that great introduction. And we go back. I'm going to be 70 years old in October. So
unreal.
I have a long time in this industry, and seen some of the things that I've seen, and some of the people I've met. I'm very fortunate to have all that stuff. So it was pretty cool.
6 decades in the professional wrestling business. That's
quite 50.
Well, I mean, across 6 decades, right? The 70s, 80s, 90s, zeros, 10s, 20s.
Yeah, I guess a long time. Yeah, that
still look pretty good.
And I ran a show years and years ago. I think about 25 years ago at Medieval Times in Toronto.
Yes.
And Ted came in and said, "Can I be on the show?" And I said, "Nah, who are you?" And I apologize for that.
Oh, did you show up looking for a spot and Ricky
No,
told you to
I
fuck
think
off?
no. He just said I'm a worker. So I said,
Yeah,
"That's
I
cool."
just showed up. I didn't
Yeah.
care. And then later on, Ricky starts running other shows. And of course, he's like, "Oh shit, I need to have you on this show."
Yeah, because now I realized how good he was.
Yeah. Now, let's finish the fucking story, Ricky.
Well, what story? Let's keep going. Which one? Which one are you talking about?
Never mind. It's
I mean, those Medieval Times shows you ran, they were a lot of fun. It was a great
they were.
venue.
And also you, Donnie, you emceed or
Play-by-play.
commentate, play-by-play, the very first one in 1998.
Yeah, that
And
was
Sabu and
Too Cold
somebody.
Scorpio.
Yeah, Too Cold Scorpio.
You
Bunch
had
of people.
crazy talent on those shows.
Yeah. Cost me a lot of money too.
he had Magnus Hamilton on those shows.
Magnus was one of the coolest guy ever.
Still
He
is.
really was.
Still is.
Mark Hamilton.
He's floating
Oh, I
around
know.
in the chat. I saw
man,
earlier. Shout out.
He's such a cool guy. I swear to God. I loved him back then, and I still love him now.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's cool. And he was a big guy back then too, man. He had big arms. And, wow.
So I want to listen. We've known each other a long time, and
Almost 30 years. Yeah.
the shows that Tid and I have hosted previous to the Godfathers of podcast, and you've been a guest on our show several times before. You've hung out with us in studio live.
Yes.
We haven't had a chance to have you on this show yet.
No, it's a
But
pleasure to be here, though.
We're happy to have you. But last week, I turned on Dark Side of the Ring,
Yes.
and I'm watching the story of Adrian Adonis.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you. Usually, when I turn on Dark Side of the Ring,
Yeah.
they're retelling stories that I know in intimate detail, right? Because
Yes.
I know all the ins and outs of the plane ride from hell, because like everyone has told me those stories in
And you
interviews.
read them all the time.
You read them, you talk to people that were involved.
Yeah.
You know, Jimmy Corderas has told me every story, every detail of the
Yeah.
Owen Hart tragedy. Like I've heard so much about all these other stories. And then there's the Adrian Adonis story, and I never heard the full story. So I
told
found
the
this
truth about that.
I found this documentary fascinating. First of all, let me ask you, how did it come to pass that Vice got in touch with you and asked you to be a part of it?
Nobody did. Somebody contacted my wife.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a smart way to go.
honestly. Yeah, and she told me, and she said, "Are you interested in doing this?" And I was a little hesitant because it brought up some memories that I didn't want to think about.
Sure.
But the more that I thought about it, I said, "Yeah, you know what? It's been 35 years. It's time to talk about it now." So we did. And Adrian had some problems, and we all have problems in this industry. So you know what I mean. So Adrian's no different than anyone else. He has some problems, and I have problems, and all the other guys have problems. So we just tried to do our best about it. What bothered me the most, though, guys, is that when the CBC television network came down to or came on the scene of the accident in Labrador, Newfoundland, the immediate question they asked was there drugs or alcohol involved, and that really irked me to know. Like, it just bothered me. There was none, but regardless of that, why would they even ask that question?
Yeah.
My friends are all dead. Yeah.
Sure.
It's tough. I mean, and for anyone who doesn't know the story, a quick recap is you were out in Newfoundland, right?
Yes.
On your way to a show.
No,
And-
we weren't on our way to a show.
Oh.
It was a night off in
Oh,
Lewisport, and the
Okay.
mayor of Lewisport invited us for a party.
okay.
And we were going to work in Lewisport the following night
Okay. But this was during a tour.
during the tour. Yes.
Okay, so you're on an off night during a tour out in the east coast of Canada, and you were supposed to be in the car
Yeah.
with
I had my-
Adrian
I
and the
had my
Kelly
foot-
twins.
Yeah, I had my foot in the door.
You had your foot in the door, and at the last second, one of the other guys says, "Hey,
Whipper
Ricky, why don't you
Watson-
come ride with me?"
Whipper Watson Jr., he rented a convertible.
Yeah.
And I had my foot in the van, getting in the van. And Phil said to me, Phil Watson, he said, Ricky, he said, I got a convertible. Why don't you come and ride with me in Little T, the midget wrestler?
Mhm.
And
Right.
that's what we did. And I said, you guys go. I said, I'm going to go with Phil. He got a nice convertible, you know.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Like the Waylon Jennings of the group.
Yeah, almost.
You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
almost.
There you go. Very quickly, Ricky, because I see that there's some people in the chat here. Keel says hello from Sydney, Nova Scotia.
Wow, that's
There you go. I'm sure that's
Amherst,
for
Nova
you.
Scotia is my home. So
I know, this is what I was saying. You are as I like to refer to them, everybody east of
a
Quebec,
blue noser.
Newfies.
Yeah, okay, a blue noser. Though.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, I'm a black noser, but if you smell it.
So the Kelly twins are in the car with Adrian Adonis and
And the bear man. Dave
the
McKean.
Bear Man, who ran those infamous tours.
Yeah,
and-
he was and a great payoff guy too, by the way.
And so an accident ensues, and a serious accident. If I'm not mistaken, it was right on the Trans-Canada Highway, right?
Yeah.
It was, yes.
And you were just a couple minutes behind them. And then
we
tell us what you saw.
Well, we thought the traffic was backed up because it was a 2-lane highway to Trans-Canada and Newfoundland. They don't have very big highways and stuff. So, and we just thought that the traffic was backed up.
Right.
And we we're just sitting there and said, well, we got to wait for it to move. And then we got closer to the accident scene. And then I seen the van, Pat Kelly's red van in the water. And Dave was the wild man. He was throwing him through the windshield. And Adrian was in the water, and he had his elbow hanging out. And he was saying, help me, help me, help me. And anyway, we tried to help, but we couldn't. So.
Unreal.
But I mean, that that's how God wanted it, I guess. So.
Yeah, I have a hard time with that. I mean, that's a tough statement for me to swallow it. Even though I was raised Catholic and everything else, I have trouble with those kind of statements. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to recover from that experience emotionally?
Hasn't.
Yeah.
35 years later, I'm still living it.
Yeah, I don't think it ever does, though. I mean, because obviously when you have that kind of trauma, it sticks with you. And it always seems to pop up whenever you don't want it to pop up. That's the worst part about it.
And Ted,
part of it, right?
I'm sorry, but Ted, I think about it every day, honest to God. But obviously, I moved on. I got
100%.
I have a beautiful wife and beautiful family and stuff. Right. But it doesn't mean that I don't think about it every single day, man. And it bothers me. And those, I remember, like Adrian was saying. I'm going to tell you a story that I don't think I've told before.
Please.
Dave McKegney, the wild man. I drove down to the East Coast with the Kelly twins, me and the Wolfman, Willie
Farkas,
yeah.
Yep.
And Dave, we stopped at a farm on the way, somewhere near where close Dave lived, and somebody said, "Dave, I'll see you when I get back." And Dave said, "I'm not coming back," and that sticks in my mind to this day. He said, "I'm not coming back. I'm not going to be back here." So,
why do you think he said that?
I don't know. Fate. I have no idea. I'm not a.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could be, or knowing Dave, he might have just been implying that he was going to move out there.
Maybe, yeah,
You know what I
maybe.
mean? This was
Yeah,
that was the lore of all
yeah,
of
yeah. Because as long as you
Fairmont,
can have a couple of beers out there.
right?
I got me a nice little spot.
I got another story to tell you, a quick one. Sweet Daddy Siki was my mentor and a good friend of mine. He was supposed to go on that trip with us. And I swear to God, he called me the night before and he said, Ricky, I'm not going to go. And I said, well, you're going to make a lot of money out there. He said, no, something bad's going to happen. My right hand to God. That's what he told me.
Wow.
And he never went. And I took a suit with me, by the way, also. A black suit. I've never taken a suit. What wrestler takes a suit on the road with them? You wear tank tops and shorts. And
right.
Yeah. And I took a suit with me.
Why would you take? Were you anticipating a fancy event on the tour?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Now that I think back on it, maybe I was. But
have you thought?
Have
you thought maybe for a second that like when these people come up and tell you these things, you should decline to listen to them? Because it seems like bad things seem to happen after they tell you these fucking things, Ricky. You need to look at them. You need to look at them and pull the old Sergeant Schultz. Like I see nothing. I hear nothing. I don't want to know.
TID. The notorious TID hit the nail on the head. I ain't listening to them motherfuckers no more.
I'm saying, Ricky.
Tell me,
in all seriousness, though, it was a very sad occasion, obviously,
of course.
And I had to call Adrian's wife.
Oh.
And she I said, hi, B.
Right.
Your husband's dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing that I've firmly believed. We've all been through instances, obviously. We're old enough that we've been through instances where we've lost people that we care about.
Yeah.
But it's our job to carry on. Exactly. And tell those stories and be able to tell those stories so that they never, ever stop being alive.
And you know what?
Right?
Thank you for saying that, Ted, because that's why I'm so happy to be able to say this tonight.
Appreciate it.
When I was younger, I was a huge fan of Adrian Adonis. And I was a kid. I wasn't familiar, Ricky, with his AWA work until after he had passed.
Yeah, when you watch the YouTube stuff, right?
Right. I got, not even YouTube. I was like VHS trading back in those days. But I was a big fan of his work in WWF because
he was a great worker.
This guy is just so athletic.
And never went to a gym a day in his life.
He looked the part. Like he looked like he didn't go to the gym, but
he could work his ass off.
You have any stories about Adrian that to this day just make you smile when you think about it?
Well, it make me smile. It might not make you guys smile too much, but
I'll take it.
Well, he liked the cocaine a lot. So.
Oh yeah, well it's the 80s.
Yeah.
Cocaine was like breathing.
A lot of the guys
nobody liked it a little, Ricky.
Yeah.
Nobody.
But, I mean, Adrian, one story I can tell you about him is about his wife, Bee. And he was on the road. Sometimes when Vince would send him to Japan or somewhere for 3 or 4 months or something, he phoned his wife at least 10 times a day because that's how much he loved her. Bee, I'm talking about his 2 daughters. And but B, he loved her.
There's a picture of a young Adrian with his bride.
Yeah, that's B, absolutely. Yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful.
He had that Jim Belushi look to him.
He does a little Jim Belushi.
That Ted's not far off. He does look a bit. Yeah. But Adrian, if Adrian wanted to shoot with you, he could shoot with you.
Oh yeah, dude,
tough guy, right? Legit tough guy.
Oh yeah, legit
tough guy. Could move around. He was probably when he started, he was probably 230, 240, somewhere around there. And then at his heaviest, he was like 3 and change or whatever.
4 bills.
But he was still taking those ridiculous bumps. He was taking those arm drags. He was taking those drop kicks. He was taking unnecessary falls for a guy that size, right? Because he just wanted to get
his
over.
Ass off. Yeah. And he wanted to get over. And you know, he got a little too hard into the drugs, and that's why Vince fired him.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you about this, Ricky, because I'm sure you're familiar with a gentleman by the name of Jim Cornette.
Yes.
Yeah. You've heard his name in passing, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody has.
Yeah. Old Corny.
Speaking of passing, but anyway.
Old Corny has a radio show out there, and he was actually talking about you.
About me
on the radio show.
Well, I think he was referring.
He was talking
the
about
documentary.
I don't think he liked
the Adrian Adonis stuff. How about?
By the way, let me cut you off, Sid. I'm sorry, or Ted. I'm sorry. Me and what's his name? The Italian guy in the WWF. He lives in Toronto.
Italian guy from Toronto.
Oh, yeah. Santino. Anthony.
Santino, yeah.
Oh, so, yeah.
Him and
Corny don't get along either.
Yeah, they don't get along. So.
Not many people do. Not many people do. You guys,
I like Cornette.
You guys got that stuff? You guys got that stuff in the back loaded up?
Here's a clip from Jim Cornette's show this week, Ricky.
Okay. Johnson, Rocky's brother, who now we know has adopted the name Soul Man in honor of his brother.
That was a weird thing to include in this, wasn't it?
I don't think Ricky Johnson is still wrestling in his 60s, is he, or 70s?
I don't think he's in his 70s. Has to be maybe 60s, but I haven't heard of him wrestling.
He's just the soul man around the grocery store. But anyway,
did they say, oh, can we just record you? Just say your name and who you are. And then he said that, and then they said, can you do one without the soul man? He's like, no, I will not. I am the soul man. But he seemed like a very nice guy.
He's a nice
guy.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah, that was funny. Jim's pretty cool.
Did you? Well, here's a question for you, because you mentioned in the documentary that you use the Soul Man moniker in honor of your brother and his passing, but I know you've had that name attached to yours for a long time.
Yeah, before that. But so I tried to honor my brother. That's all, and without hurting other people's feelings.
So let me ask you this: did you ever get heat? Did you ever get heat from anyone, whether it was your brother or anyone else in the business that was like, "Why are you using his name?"
No.
Oh, that's a very succinct answer.
Yeah, now what, Donnie?
So put that in your pipe, Jim Cornette.
No, man, there's no story to go with it.
Well, Jim's a very cool guy, you know, so he's got things to say. So.
You know what? A lot of modern fans don't like Jim Cornette because they think he's out of touch and they think he's, outdated.
I think he's very in touch. He's an old school guy, though.
He's an old school guy.
Sure. Yeah. I don't personally have no problem with him. So
yeah, no.
What he does or what he says, that's up to him. So at my age now, it's like he said, I'm an old man. So what do I really give a fuck about?
There was an incident that happened years and years and years ago, and I've never talked about this publicly. And I don't think you and I have even talked about it directly since it happened.
Okay.
There was a kid who was a relative of my ex-wife. And this kid was all over the news for a couple months because he was a grade 9 kid living north of Toronto, and he got the shit kicked out of him in a gang beating to the point where this kid was left with permanent brain damage.
Wow.
He was in the hospital. This is going back to like 99, 2000, somewhere in there. Okay, Ricky? And I remember this kid was in the hospital and I went to go see him, and his mom, at the time he's in a coma, and his mom said to me, listen, I know you have some affiliation with the wrestling business. The Rock is his favorite person in the world. Is there any way you can get him like a signed autograph, something? I said, listen, at the time, I'm like, he's the Intercontinental Champion. He's one of the hottest stars in the world. I've met him a few times. I don't know what I can do for you, but I'll try. And I remember I spoke to you and I told you the story. 2 weeks later, that kid had an autographed picture of The Rock sent to his to his hospital room.
Yeah. I remember that.
And
Did you forge it?
that's the question.
No, I'm not as good of a writer. So.
It would have come out shaky for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It was I never had a conversation with the parents about it, but
With
they
what
had told my ex-wife, like, they were in tears when it showed up. There was no name attached to it in terms of who sent it, or it just showed up.
Yeah, I talked to my sister-in-law, I had it, and we worked it out. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Unbelievable when that happened. And then
And
I remember
I listen to everybody, and I read everything that they say on the internet and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know what I do? I laugh. So who cares? I could care less.
And,
I got my wife, my family, and my cats, and we're cool. And my grandkids. So.
last summer I was helping to run a wrestling show in Toronto. And we were honoring a sick kid, a little boy, 6-year-old boy named Bentley, who had terminal cancer. And he was supposed to be the guest of honor at our show. His family brought him to the show. However, he was so sick that day, he couldn't get from the family's car into the venue. So his family ended up coming into the ring, accepting the trophy and the awards that we handed out. And Ricky Johnson was out in the parking lot checking on this kid and being with the family the whole time, getting them water, getting them things to eat. And then he goes inside the venue and starts grabbing whatever he can get his hands on, like t-shirt or a headband or any kind of merch. And he's going around to all the talent in the locker room going, sign this for the kid, sign this for the kid. And Ricky's just bringing all this shit over. And I remember thinking, like, you didn't need to do that. Like, no one told you to do that. And like, I always thought you were a good dude. I always thought you were a straight shooter as much as you could get in the wrestling business. And that day,
Bentley told me to do it.
Maybe mentally, right?
Mentally, yes.
On that day, man, you went up in my books like 100 points. Like, I just thought, holy shit, this guy just carved his seat.
Yeah,
in the
what?
afterlife.
You know what? You guys were talking about my nephew a little bit ago.
Yeah.
And
Who's that?
The people in Hollywood are on strike.
Right.
And he gave them a lot of money just to sustain them because he's able to do that.
Sure.
And not everybody's rich, and some people need some help. Some of the writers and stuff, and the lay people.
And that all comes off of the heels of him having his TV show, Young Rock, canceled.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Show's done.
Yeah, canceled. That doesn't mean it's still.
Yeah. Is that because they didn't have you on?
Probably.
I know that
I never seen you on there either, but it's okay.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I know you got a little hot at one point about that TV show, Young Rock, because you felt like they were saying some things about your mom or whatever else. There were some insinuations that you weren't crazy about.
Yeah, 100%. My mother will always be my hero.
Right. Of course. She's your mom.
Yeah. And I don't like her. The light that she was portrayed in, I understand it's a sitcom or whatever, or a TV show.
Sure.
But that's still my mother. And if I don't protect, I'm the last guy living now. If I don't protect her, who's going to?
Was there a specific thing that first set you off? Like when you were watching it, was there like one thing that was like, all right, I can't understand this. Why are they doing this? Yeah. What was it?
I'm not going to tell you.
I don't know where you fucking live.
But there was one thing. Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I felt my mother was disrespected, and I'm just me.
you don't have to confirm this, Ricky, but I watched the show.
Yeah.
I think you got hot when Dwayne was telling stories about how allegedly your mom kicked your brother Rocky out of the house.
Yeah, that's the exact point, by the way. And TID, that's the truth. And that never
Well, you
happened.
couldn't fucking say that yourself. You had to let this fucking one say it for you.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake, Richard.
But Donnie, you know what? You hit the nail on the head. That never happened. That never.
But you know what?
And
Here's the thing.
No, let me say the thing.
Okay.
Scott Teal, you know who Scott Teal is?
Mhm.
He wrote a book, and my brother allegedly was anyway. He promised to pay him. He never paid him, and he said a lot of bad things about my mother. And am I upset about that? 100% I am. Will I be? Forever. Don't lie. My mother's never done nothing. She worked at a hospital as a nurse's aide. She wasn't nobody special. She wasn't a big famous person. She wasn't a wrestling promoter. She was my mother.
Right.
And that did make me angry, yes.
Okay.
I want to play devil's advocate
Go ahead.
and say it's possible, right?
Yeah.
Because the whole show is supposed to be the interpretation from the eyes of a child, right? It's Dwayne Johnson as a kid.
Right.
It's entirely possible that
Right. And
his
none of that
dad, your
stuff-
brother,
And most of that stuff never happened on the show, by the way.
sure, but it's entirely possible that his dad, your brother,
Yeah. I know
gave him
my
that
brother-
story. Gave him that story.
Is
right?
it entirely possible my brother gave him that story?
It's possible. No,
100%. Yeah, 1,000,000%.
that's what I'm saying.
Is it entirely possible, or is it completely possible?
Right.
I only ever interviewed your brother Rocky Johnson one time.
Yeah, my brother.
in
was
that-
cool.
And in that one interview, I felt like I was getting worked the whole time.
Why was that?
I don't know. I just felt like every question I asked came with exaggeration.
Right.
Every question I asked came with, like I told him, I said, and I was a young kid at the time, and I said, Rocky, what's your favorite match of your career? Oh, this one time, man, in Tokyo, 100,000 people. I was in the main event, and I'm like,
When?
what's the date of that show? Because I can't find it.
Right.
And you're a historian.
I mean, I don't claim to be a historian, but I got some facts up in this hat holder. But
Let me just back it up just a bit.
yeah,
And just say that some folks don't always tell the truth.
What? Come on, that doesn't happen around here. Big
No.
Daddy Dodo said it right when he said nobody fucks with mama. I think
Yeah.
that's a real thing, right?
Well, that's the real thing with me, though. With my
Donkey
mama.
Kongington would like to know: did Ricky ever wrestle 2-ton Harris?
No.
All right. Wow.
there you go. Succinct answer.
Yeah. Hey,
What
was
would
his
you
name
say-
Mr. Soul? That was
Oh.
another question from him.
I didn't hear that story.
Yeah, we had two of them from him. There was your name, Mr. Soul, and did you know Bruno?
No. I knew Bruno. My name was never Mr. Soul. But I knew Bruno Sammartino. He means Bruno Sammartino?
Is there another one?
Oh, I see that.
Well, there's downtown Bruno.
Downtown Bruno. Thank you.
Bruno's close with the Johnsons, right?
Yeah. Oh, well, that's another. Oh, we'll get into that right now.
Okay. I like downtown Bruno.
I do too. He's a pretty cool guy, man. In Memphis, Jerry Lawler. Jerry can tell you some stories.
What's
Sorry.
I was going to say, I'm sure a lot of people tuning in, obviously interested in stories about Dewey, your nephew, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Of course, him being, if not the biggest, top 3, top 4 biggest stars on the planet.
Yeah, he's cool.
Share with us, if you can, a story that wasn't on the TV show, a story about young Dewey, Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I can tell you when we were living in Florida in Tampa, and he was 4 years old, and we moved from Texas. We were wrestling in Texas, me and my brother. We moved to Florida to work for Eddie Graham, and we bought a black poodle with us. And Dewey is, I think he was about 4 years old, 3 years old, something. And the poodle got out, and the poodle got with another dog, and Dewey come running home, and he said, "Unc, Tex is stuck to another dog." You smell what I'm cooking now? He's stuck to another dog. Well, it wasn't crazy glue.
Right.
So it was that introduction that, and you happened to be there when The Rock first saw his first introduction to Two Dogs.
Two Dogs Fucking, yeah.
All right.
He smelled what they were cooking.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm sure Tid remembers this too. Tid and I were backstage at the Rogers Center, the old Sky Dome, for a WWE, WWF at the time, house show.
Yeah.
And back in those days, the way it worked was, because we were considered local media, we had to contact the president of WWF Canada, who was Carl DeMarco.
Carl DeMarco, yeah.
Old Buffalo head. We had to contact him.
Well, don't call them names. I will.
He was stiff with us, man. I still got some heat.
DeMarco is actually Italian for the mark.
Yeah. Well, Carl thought a lot of himself,
Somebody had to.
In fact, I did not know until 3 years after I first met him that his full name was not, in fact, Carl DeMarco, best man at Bret Hart's wedding. I thought that was his full name because that's what he said every time he introduced himself.
I've never known that.
But that all being said, we contacted Carl's office and we would get set up to do interviews, backstage at the shows.
Yeah.
I don't remember who we were supposed to interview, but whoever it was wasn't available.
Right.
And then they brought out this guy who had just debuted a month earlier or so, and it was Rocky Maivia. Yeah. And we got.
I want to talk to him for.
We got all of like 4 minutes with him.
Yeah.
And at the time, I'm literally thinking to myself, we're never gonna fucking air this. Who the fuck is this kid?
Yeah.
Like,
and he was thinking the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
He was thinking the same exact fucking thing. He was like, I'm supposed to be a star. You know who my dad is? More importantly, I'm in Toronto, and you know who my fucking uncle is? You just with these two fucking assholes?
We went to a place at Donnie, I don't know if it was downtown Toronto. It's a bar I used to go to at Dufferin and King called the Dufferin Gate.
Yep.
Okay.
And Dwayne came with me after the Sky Dome show. And they had a bunch of pictures, and people got excited when they seen him when he came in. I said, so go get some pictures and sign them for these people. And he did that. And I drank for the whole year for nothing and ate for the whole year for nothing.
Is that where you first learned to forge a cigarette?
My point is that he didn't have to do that, but he did it.
But he did it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Brady W says, Carl is at a buffet somewhere being asked to leave. There's no doubt about that. We were speaking of the man earlier, and Magnus Hamilton actually says, fuck Carl.
I know Magnus very well. So, and Ted, you know him also. I'm Donnie.
We knew him real well.
Yeah.
We knew him real well. But you know what? I will say, Carl did give Tid and I one of the best stories ever.
Yeah.
Because Carl at Survivor Series 1997, the night of the Montreal Screwjob, he was the guy standing at will call telling all the media to go away because media had been shut down for that day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he told Tid and I, you guys can go sit in the seats and watch the show, but you're not getting anywhere backstage tonight.
I said, watch this.
And we were so pissed because we just did the drive from Toronto to Montreal.
Yeah.
And then in a restaurant next door to the will call entrance, we ran into our pals Tiger Jeet Singh and Tiger Ali Singh, and they walked us backstage.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah.
They walked us backstage. We were the only media backstage the night of the Montreal Screwjob.
So you seen it?
We saw more than we were supposed to.
That's pretty cool, man. You know what I mean? So, Brett, I just talked to Brett a couple of days ago, and he's he's 65 years old, something like that. But
Yeah.
he's pretty cool. You know what I mean? So
He's mellowing out.
yeah, the thing went on with him and Sean and stuff. That was years ago. So
Yeah.
we overlook all that stuff. So we're at a stage in our life now. We just take it a day at a time. So.
Donnie, say Montreal for me again. Because
Montreal.
Stacey Allen says, Donnie says Montreal.
Montreal.
Okay.
Montreal.
How does Stacy say it? Montreal.
I'm
not fucking French. Oh, Montreal. We go to Club Super Sex.
Barely fucking human. Big Daddy Dodo, 1999. Thank you so much, Big Daddy Dodo. Love seeing you in here as always, along with everybody else. Great interview, fellas. Mr. Johnson, thanks for hanging out with us. I'm glad he phrased it that way and not, thanks for hanging your Mr. Johnson out with us. Brady W., any haystack stories?
Now my wife is really laughing.
Any haystack stories there, Ricky?
This comes from Brady. He wants to know if you have any stories about Haystack Calhoun.
I met him once when I was a young kid. I have no stories.
If you take a look back now, when you're active as a professional wrestler for as long as you were, it's hard in the moment, right? To go, I think this was my best match. But when you're retired and you've had time to look back at it, what would you say was the night you went out there, laced up your boots, got in the ring? Who were you working with that night when you look back at it and go, that's as good as I ever was?
That's a great question. I can't tell you that because there's so many great guys that I work with that made me look good. You know what I mean? So I don't know. So most of the guys were all good. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, but when you felt like you were at your best?
Well, I'll tell you the worst.
Okay. Topsy-turvy my shit.
Yeah. I'm topsy-turvy. Dave McKegney wanted me to work with his bear one night.
Oh, with the bear.
Yeah, and the bear never liked me. The bear was prejudiced, right?
Well, yeah.
So for anyone out there that doesn't know this, the man who was referred to as the Bear Man would make part of his show, part of his wrestling event was a wrestler versus a goddamn bear.
Sure.
Right. And I wouldn't do it.
No, because Ricky was the wrong shade of gray.
Right. Yeah. The bear was prejudiced, Ted.
Ted, if you were in your 20s,
hang on, I was working with the Sheik one night, right? The main event.
The original Sheik.
Yeah, the old Sheik, Sabu's uncle.
Yeah.
And they put the bear in front of my dressing room. And every time I opened the door, the bear would start growling and jump up, so I couldn't get out to go into the ring. And they were ringing the bell and saying, "This corner, Ricky Johnson, bing, ding, bing, ding, bing." And every time I opened the door to go out, the bear was laying in front of the door. And he'd stand up and growl at me. And I said, I'm not. Tell the Sheik I said goodbye. I ain't doing this.
That was all part of the plan to get you to do the job the easy way. Nobody got hurt that night. You moved on.
Yeah. Well, I got my $20. So.
That's amazing.
Ted, if you were a young wrestler in your 20s on the Bear Man tour, what would the payoff have to have been for you to work the bear?
Oh, a lot.
You know what?
Actually, I say that sight unseen or anything like that.
Two hot dogs and a handshake.
But we're talking about a bear, so it's always fun to wrestle a bear.
You know what? Speaking of payoffs, though, Donnie, the bear man paid very well.
That's good. He should.
Yeah. Well, I never wrestled a bear though, but at the end of the tour, when Adrian and everybody died in Newfoundland, I was making $2,100 a week. I'm working 7 days a week, $300 a night. We
talked off the top about those shows you ran at Medieval Times.
Yes.
And I got the opportunity to be the play-by-play man for those videos, sitting ringside. I want to share with you quickly. We're going to wrap it up. I'm going to share with you quickly, Ricky, my favorite story from those shows. It was a couple hours before bell time.
Yeah.
the boys are starting to get their boots on. They're sitting backstage, whatever.
Yeah.
I walk backstage, and you had said to me, because I was at the time doing a radio show with Tid.
I remember
And
that.
you had said, feel free to interview the boys and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So before I go to work doing play-by-play, I go backstage because I want to get some interviews.
Yeah.
Sabu sees me with a microphone and whatever.
Yeah.
And he goes, no marks in the dressing room.
I remember that.
So Bruiser Bedlam, the late Johnny K9, who knew me from Ike Shaw's wrestling school. He already knew me.
Ike Shaw, remember him?
Oh, yeah. Bruiser Bedlam comes over and backhand chops me across the chest. I'm still selling it.
Yeah.
Okay. And he looks at me and goes, no, you're fine. And he tells me to come in. But first, he had to chop me to make Sabu happy.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, me and Sabu partied the whole night, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure you guys did. I'm sure you guys did.
We never left the bar unclosed.
We're up against the clock.
Okay,
Tid,
I'm ready to go.
Did we have anybody else in the super chat?
No, that'll do it. Let's wrap it up with Ricky, and then we'll say our goodbyes.
Perfect. Ricky Johnson, thank you so much for joining us, folks. If you have not yet checked out the Vice documentary, Dark Side of the Ring, on the tragic passing of the adorable Adrian Adonis, please go check it out. Vice puts out award-winning documentaries. They do really high-quality work, and I was so surprised and happy to see my friend Ricky Johnson as a part of that special. Ricky, thanks for your time tonight. Always a good one. Say hi to your lovely wife Jeannie, and have a good night.
Thank you, and thank you, TID. I appreciate it, guys. Peace.
See you, brother.
There he goes, the Soul Man. Fuck you, Cornette. Tid, any plugs? I know you got lots of stuff going on.
Always got stuff going on. Of course, the Marijuana show every Tuesday evening, the Faye Koff show every Sunday evening.
Love that name.
It's fantastic, isn't it? This show every Thursday right here on the Shuley Network. Just a new episode of the Weigh-Ins Brothers for the upcoming UFC pay-per-view available on the SNME network. I will also be putting together a quick pre-punch parlay podcast that will probably go out early Saturday morning after the weigh-in, so that you want to make some fun bets, you can listen in. Roy, $20. Great show, boys. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Roy. You sexy son of a bitch, you. And you can get all of this stuff of mine over, if you want to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Tid Talk. There you go. Tid Talk, not TED Talk. Fuck those guys. Tid Talk on YouTube. You'll see my beautiful face on there as well. It would be much appreciated. And you're taking your shirts off next time, Tiff. I mean, I could just.
Who? Tiff's taking her shirt off?
I could just.
I can't get it over my headphones.
I mean, we could just do that.
All right.
It's pretty simple. Oof. Get some sun, kid.
I know. I need some sun in a bad way. Thank you to everyone at the Shuley Network. Thank you to everyone who tuned in live. Of course, if you missed any part of this show, you can go to godfathersofpodcasting.com and check the replay tomorrow. You can also go to any one of our affiliates, Apple, Google, Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of them. And of course, our friends at the SNME Network, SundayNightsMainEvent.com. They are a huge supporter of this program. Make sure you check them out as well. They've got lots of other great shows. The Shuley Network says Blunder Years is next for members only.
Dude, absolutely.
So if you're a member of the Shuley Network, and why aren't you? You've got another great show coming up. It's the Blunder Years. That's Tid. I'm Donnie. We are the Godfathers of Podcasting. This is episode 147 in the books. We are done this party. We'll see you next time.
Peace.
Fuck this shit, I'm out. Fuck this shit, I'm out. No thanks. Don't mind me. I'ma just grab my stuff and leave. Excuse me, please. Fuck this